How does getting a hug make you feel? Wait, that's not right. That's not quite right. How does giving a hug make you feel? Now, before you answer that, let me tell you how giving a hug makes me feel. It makes me feel undeniably extraordinary. And I don't use those words lightly. It makes me feel undeniably extraordinary because for the last 22 years, I have traveled around the world hugging people. That's right. If you look at this map, everywhere where you see a heart, and some of the places where you don't, are places where I've hugged people. Whether that is one of my 348 state drives that I've taken, or one of my bicycle trips across North America, Africa, Asia, or Australia. I've spent, like I said, 22 years, a generation of my life, trying to make the world a happier place. It all began on September 11th, 2001, when my friend Kevin Bowser was killed in the World Trade Center attacks. Strictly speaking, Kevin was just the son of a neighboring family, but deep down he was much more than that. You see, Kevin and his twin brother Kelvin, they were the first coolest guys that I ever met. They were 10 years older than me, and I just idolized them. And they were the first coolest guys that I ever met because they were so cool because they never made me feel 10 years younger. I mean, yeah, I was a pest to them, but I mean, it was their caring, kindness, and concern for me that just seamlessly bridged our 10-year gap. And for 36 years, I learned everything from them. I learned how to drive from these guys. These guys helped me be a better student, be a better man. They were my social and moral compass, and they kind of made me cool too. And you know, there's a lot I could say about Kevin Bowser, but I'll just sum it up this way. Kevin Bowser just wasn't some guy that died in the World Trade Center attacks. He was my big brother. If you're in Philadelphia on September 11th, 2001, you may recall the panic in the streets as people looked to the skies wondering if we were next. And public transportation shut down. And so with a lot of people stranded in the city, I opened up my apartment to all of my friends that were stuck. And suddenly my apartment was just packed with people who were strangers to each other, but not to me. And so as we sat and we watched umpteenth replay after replay of the towers crumbling, you could just feel the tension mount. And that was when I remembered that Kevin commuted back and forth from Philly to New York and worked in the World Trade Centers. And then all of a sudden my tension mounted even more. And as I wondered about Kevin, and then without any prompting, these people, like I said, who were strangers to each other but not to me, all of a sudden started hugging each other. And all of a sudden you could just feel the tension of the room ease a bit. And all of this made me think a lot about what happens during a hug. And it really is a lot, because in a moment, just like I said, a simple embrace, you are seen, you are supported, you are shielded, you are comforted, you are connected, you're in a moment. No. You are creating a moment. It's crazy, but September 11th may have been the last time that we as a society turn to each other, turn to our left, turn to our right, to each other for the original form, and I think the best form of social media, and not this, and that is a simple hug. Weeks later, I was sitting at Kevin's memorial service, and I was listening to his friends and peers speak about their experiences with Kevin, and all of a sudden I learned that all of the caring, kindness, and concern that Kevin had for me, he had for others too. It was amazing. It was beautiful to hear. It was humbling. You know, all of a sudden I felt like Kevin was with me, and I felt like Kevin was hugging me, because it was clear that Kevin had been comforting me, supporting, shielding me, guiding me my whole life. And it was right there that I redefined the word extraordinary. Being extraordinary is not the performance of some superhuman-esque act. Being extraordinary is performing a very human and caring act on a highly consistent level. And that's what Kevin did for me. So I elected to memorialize Kevin by doing something I was, well, not necessarily extraordinary, but I was good at, and that was biking. And so I biked across the United States. And I also did something I was very good at on that trip, which is talking to people. And I talked to people everywhere on that trip. And one of the people that I talked to was in this small town of Du Bois, Wyoming. And Du Bois, Wyoming is a town of 900 people. So anybody, any stranger is going to draw attention, especially a big sweaty brother on a bicycle. And so one of these people that I talked to was this woman who was telling me how she was unemployed, and she was telling me that she was intrigued by why I would bicycle across the United States. She wanted to know about my friendship with Kevin. She wanted to know just like what would prompt me. She just wanted to know everything. You know, if Kevin had kids, if he had a wife, how many siblings did he have, everything. And so as I was talking about Kevin, I showed her a picture of Kevin, and she's holding a picture of Kevin. And she said, "Oh my God, you two were so lucky to have each other." And as we are talking, this woman that I said, like I said, told me she was unemployed, reached in her purse to pull out some money, to give me some money to offset my expenses. And I said, I can't take this. You're poor. And she said, "But I can't let you leave here with nothing. I have to give you something." And she said, "Can I at least give you a hug?" And I looked at her and I said, "Hugs are always welcome." Now with her arms around me, literally squeezing the tears out of me, you know, it was beautiful. And I have to tell you that that moment was indicative of all of the moments that I had biking across the United States in 2002. Because as this woman is hugging me, I felt seen, I felt supported, I felt shielded, I felt comforted, I felt connected, I felt beautiful just all throughout that summer. And during that summer, that was when I decided that a simple hug is my life's currency. And like any currency, I just wanted more. Now, it took me a while to figure out how to get more, how I was going to do it. But then I saw about this bicycle trip across Africa. And I was like, yeah, that's it. I think that's it. And so, yes, it was a big leap of faith. But I mean, that's what you do when you're like called deep within. That's what you do when, for humanity, for love, for your life's currency, right? And so I did everything that I had to do to prepare for that trip. I trained physically, I raised the money, I got inoculations, I got the airfare. I even quit my job and I flew to Cairo, Egypt, and for 5 months, I bicycled through Egypt, Sudan, Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Malawi, Zambia, Namibia, Botswana, and South Africa. And guess what? Everything that I was looking for, all of the life currency that I had defined and was looking for was there too. It didn't matter that I was years beyond 2001. It didn't matter that I was thousands of miles away from the World Trade Centers. Everything I was looking for was there too. From having oxtail soup in a hut with a man and his 2 sons in Sudan, to having a Kenyan man hug me once and then stop to break away from me and then look me in the eye and say, "This is for Kevin," and to hug me even deeper. That life currency was there. For 5 months, I was living in a moment. I was creating a moment. I returned home from Africa wealthy with this life currency. And like anybody that has new wealth, I was eager to spend it. And I was talking to my friends, telling them about what I saw, about what I wanted to do, about what I was going to achieve. And my friend said, whoa, pump your brakes. I see even more in you. And it's funny because seeing the extraordinary in others is easy, but identifying and owning up to the extraordinary within yourself is hard. It's like facing the mirror. But once my friends called me on it, once my friends saw me and they said, "Hey man, I see even more in you and I'm going to help you be even more," I was like, yeah, all right, let's do it. Now, of course, I'm saying it easy like that, but you know, in order to see more, in order to be more, I had to learn everything. I had to learn how to write articles. I had to learn how to pitch, how to write speeches, how to pitch companies. I had to learn how to do everything. And as I was learning that, once I learned how to do all of that, I decided I was going to follow in the footsteps of a Philadelphia woman, Kristen Sullivan, who biked all the way from Fairbanks, Alaska to Ushuaia, Argentina in 355 days. It's an amazing story. You really should look it up. But I was going to follow in her footsteps going from Cali, Colombia to Ushuaia, Argentina. And right before I was about to leave, bam! I was hit by a drunk driver. I was hit by a drunk driver and partially ejected from the truck I was driving. I was fucked up. I was fucked up, and I was immediately thrust into a dark, injured, and depressive hole. And I probably would have still been there if not for one thing. And that's a different type of hug. Let me explain. Once word got out that I was injured, people that I had hugged and high-fived and met on my other trips started sending me all kinds of stuff. They started sending me prayers. They started sending me good luck charms. They started sending me all kinds of trinkets and stuff. And it was encouraging to see all of this. But one thing really got me, and that was, this talk has props, was this. It was this rock right here. A guy sent me this rock in the mail, and initially I felt like Charlie Brown when I got it, because, you know, when Charlie Brown said, hey, what'd you get on Halloween? It's like, I got a rock. This is, when I first got this, I was like, what the hell is this? But then I read the story behind this. And it was a guy who lived in Chicago, and he was a hedge fund guy. And he said that he grew up in a troubled foster home. And one day he was walking to school, and he was walking to school to take a test that he hadn't really studied for. And he said he could not afford to bring another bad grade home. And so he saw this rock that is very nice, and it stuck out from all the other rocks around the school. And he picked it up and he made a wish on this rock, this very rock, and said, if I get a good grade on this exam, I'll be a better student and a better person. And I guess it worked, because he wrote and he said that he got an 89 on the exam and went on to become a successful hedge fund guy. And I guess I should have found a rock in my life, because I just grew up poor. And he said he sent me this rock because he wanted me to have any rock that was left in it. And so, when is a rock not a rock? When it is surrounded by a beautiful story. And in this rock, and in reading this story, I felt seen, I felt soothed, I felt shielded, I felt encouraged, I felt connected. With this rock, I felt hugged. Now, some of you, I know some people are being forced to watch this video right now, and they're like, oh my God, will this dude shut the fuck up? I'm not into hugs. And I get it. I get it. But you're missing the point. Well, two things. One, you're missing out, because I think hugs are awesome, but you're missing the point, because the point of all this and the point of this story is that there's always a way to make a connection if you want to. Now, in 2019, I did a hug tour throughout Europe and Israel. In 2 weeks, I went through Dublin, Belfast, London, Paris, Rome, Tel Aviv, and Jerusalem. And I went and I did this tour to see how many people I could hug. And on this tour, I was in a mosque in Belfast, Northern Ireland. And I met this woman who said that she loved my tour and she loved my mission, but because of her faith, she couldn't hug me. And on this tour, I was counting with this clicker right here, how many hugs that I gave. And she said, does my smile count towards your hug tally? And I said, it does now. And so with that, she just lit up and she said, stay right there. And she went away and she came back about 10 minutes later, and it was great because she came back and came back with 5 other women, 5 other Muslim women. And one woman is holding one woman's hand and whatever, and it was just this daisy chain of humanity. And she stood them right in front of me and she said, tell them your story, tell them your story. And as I told my story, with each smile, she just yelled, click it, click it, click it, click it, click it, click it. And I love this encounter because all of a sudden it was showing me a world that could be, a world that I was trying to get others to see, a world where people just connected, just for a smile, were just vibing with each other. And so seeing this, experiencing this made me even bolder about going after that world. And so when I was coming home from that tour, I had to fly into Jordan, and you have to deplane, and they frisk you and stuff like that. And Jordanians take their security very seriously. So as I am standing there being frisked, I'm standing there like this, and he's frisking me, very stern faced. They don't say anything. But the guy looks at me and he asks about my Big Dave Hugs the World sign. And he says, "What's this all about?" And so I quickly tell him my story. And as I'm standing there like this, I say, "Hey man, considering that you just felt me the fuck up, you should at least give me a hug." And then all of a sudden this guy, like I said, who's sitting there stern faced, who's sitting there with a sidearm on, who's sitting there with a rifle, just looks at me and he breaks out in this big ass smile and he says, "At least." And he gives me this warm embrace. And it was something to see because, you know, the other people who saw this as we're walking into the airport, they said, "Hey man, who are you? Those guys don't even smile at anyone, let alone hug anyone. Like, who are you?" And I said, "Man, I'm just a motherfucker from Philly that likes hugs." And this wasn't me being glib, this is the truth. Because remember, when all this started, September 11th, 2001, 22 years ago, 23 years ago, I wasn't Big Dave the hug guy. I was Big Dave the trainer, Big Dave the guy with a dead friend. But in the pursuit of a simple hug, I've become so much. I've become a cross-continental cyclist. I've become an award-winning author. I've become an award-winning documentarian. I've become a TED speaker. You know, I have become much more than I ever could have imagined. In the pursuit of a simple hug, I have become much more forgiving about anything that happened to me yesterday. I've become much more earnest about mining the moments, the gold within the moments of this very day. And I've become much more hopeful about tomorrow. In the pursuit of a hug, I've become a better man. And dare I say, I mean, you will not find anyone ever that owes more to a simple hug than I do. Really. I could go on all day, but I'm going to wrap it up with this story right here. During the pandemic, I did one more tour. I did a 48-state drive. And you would think that a pandemic is going to shut down hugs and high fives, and it did. It shut down the physical touch, but it couldn't shut down the good vibes. I did this 48-state drive where I did a good deed in every state. I bought an old lady's gas in Arkansas. I treated an oncologist team to lunch in California. I bought COVID units in North Dakota, South Dakota, Standing Rock Nation in Minnesota, pizzas. I did just good deeds all over the states. I delivered flowers to seniors in Belle Fourche, South Dakota. I was just trying to create some good. And on that trip in West Virginia, I met Woody Williams. And Woody Williams is a very interesting guy. Woody Williams at the time was the nation's oldest living Medal of Honor recipient. And he was a true badass. He fought in Iwo Jima. And it was just an honor to meet him. And actually, he was one of the few people that I hugged on that tour because how do you say no to a badass? He wanted a hug and I had to give it to him. But it was interesting talking to Woody because he had experienced so much in the world, and he looked at me and he said, "Dave, you are the warrior that the world needs right now. You." And he said, "But everything hinges on your smile. So don't take any more chances with this trip." And he said, "Just return home healthy and smiling." He put his hand on top of mine and he said, "Listen," he said, "if you finish this trip healthy and smiling," he said, "people may not like what you do. People may not go on to do what you do." He said, but when they see that you're healthy and they see that you're smiling, they can't deny what can be. So you have to do it. Just take care of yourself and keep smiling. It all hinges on that. I am David Hale Sylvester, the proud recipient of 500,000 hugs from all over the planet. And I am just honored to live the hug effect. And I just want to say thank you for watching, and may happiness be your legacy.